evening session. Thank you for the time that you've created to be here. So we will be transitioning into discussing what we call sustainable procurement. This is our introductory lecture. We want to understand what is sustainable procurement, what does it entail, what are some of the considerations when it comes to sustainable procurement, steps that we need to take as organizations to implement sustainable procurement programs. So I will be able to take questions at the end of the session. It's going to at least try and be very brief. Excuse me. So welcome. So our first discussion is simply to understand the concept of sustainable procurement. And we are saying when we talk about sustainability, it is the act or the capacity to be able to meet present needs of anything. In this context here is around procurement. And when we want to meet the capacity of, when we want to make sure that we are not compromising any future generation because of our very bad procurement efforts, then it is very, very important to ensure that the environment are very important to understand. Sustainable procurement is simply undertaking those activities that are going to ensure that we safeguard the environment, our environment is safe, and cause of plastic bags. Those have adopted these particular procedures to ensure the safeguarding of the environment in all our purchase to ensure that we also take care of the environment. Now, when we are talking about sustainable procurement, we have a number of considerations that we need to bring on board. Consideration number one is the environmental impact. Eco-friendly materials, we need to be using that. As an organization, as a company, we also need to promote the use of renewable energy. And very, very important, the last one, is we need to be able to ensure proper disposal of our waste. All that is around matters sustainability and ensuring that we get it right. So it means we also need to procure the correct bins to be able to dispose, or we need as an organization to be able to develop ways and means to be able to ensure proper waste management. We avoid littering around. Littering of plastics has been deemed to be one of the areas where most countries are still not yet there. When you travel to some East African countries, like we have had the very interesting story of Rwanda and how the country is very clean and how they have well-coordinated cleanups almost every month or within a particular duration to try and ensure that the environment is clean. All those are conversations that we can continue to have around sustainable procurement. And then also, we also need to consider ensuring as an organization also, we undertake social responsibility affairs and activities around sustainable procurement. So we can always educate people on the need of proper waste and educate the organization, right, in terms of sustainable procurement. And to answer the question of ensuring that we keep our environment clean, we could be able to do a number of things, including resources and opportunities. We also seek to maintain quality of life and also uphold uh, um, human rights within the organization system. Remember, we are talking about procurement, but for us to succeed in terms of sustainable procurement, we need people. Yeah, that's the social bit of conversation. Yeah, so we need people with the numbers perspective. So if we completely close that particular avenue, then it means in terms of the economic aspect, as a country, we could be getting it wrong. So what we do, we propose other solutions. Like I've said, the solutions of banning of the use of plastic bags was to introduce the reusable bags. You can use it today, use it tomorrow, use it the next day. But in terms of the economic perspective, people are still in business. and they do not feel affected because of us moving to the conversation of sustainable procurement. Of course, now in this particular century, this is a conversation that has widened. Organizations have taken this conversation also very serious. Countries also have taken this conversation very serious, and that's why they get to the point of developing laws and policies that are going to guide how we continually remain sustainable, even as we continue to procure our goods. We have what we call practices of sustainability. What are some of the things that we need to do? Number one, we need to evaluate suppliers. So the reason why we are doing evaluation of suppliers is to seek to be able to understand whether for them they know about these sustainability practices. And that means now we will be very selective, and we only want to work with those that understand the discussions around sustainable procurement. Countries, especially in Africa, now we are having climate change conversations. And these are conversations that now need even to get to the level of understanding with by the businessmen, the suppliers, to know the do's and don'ts around sustainable procurement. The other one is life cycle costing. They need to consider the total cost of ownership, including the disposal costs and environmental costs, rather than just the initial purchase price. We could be having items that when we use, we need to dispose them in a particular manner. Yeah. For example, take an example of in the medical field. Once the syringes are used, we can't just be dropping them every corner of the hospital. We are dropping them. We have to incur what we are now calling the costs of disposal. Yeah, that they can be collected by those that are specialists in matters waste collection and waste management, and they drop them appropriately at the correct point where they are not going to cause very many other issues. Yeah. And so it means when we are having this conversation with our suppliers, we could be looking at a point of us incurring more cost in terms of the items that we are ordering, like the cost that we have just highlighted there. Another very important conversation still around the practices of sustainability is what we call the green procurement. And when you're talking about green procurement, we are looking at the aspect of prioritizing products and services that have a lower environmental footprint. And green procurement also would simply mean that when we are selecting items to buy as a company, we are selecting what we call environmentally friendly products. One of the principles that we can be able to use around the issues of green procurement is, number one, we need to opt for products that use fewer natural resources. That means if we go for products that use a lot of natural resources, then we are going to be depleting our natural resources. So green procurement takes us to the principles and laws that as an organization, we go for the products that use fewer natural resources. We could also have conversations around reusable products. And also, we could also, and number three, we could be able to look for ways and means where we can do pollution prevention. What are some of the ways and means that we can adopt so that we can be able to avoid pollution? Now, once we practice this green procurement, how do we benefit as a company? How do we benefit as a country? That's another very important question that we are going to ask ourselves. And number one is that we are able to protect the environment. Number two, we are able to save on costs that we could incur along the procurement chain. Number three, we are going to have an enhanced reputation or an enhanced image reputation of the company and also of the country. The story of Rwanda, like I'm sharing it, is a story that I'm sure you also could have heard it, because it's a positive story that these citizens can come together and say, today is our country's cleaning day, and everybody appears for that particular activity. Yeah, so in terms of reputation at the company level, at the country level, this particular practice of green procurement is very, very important. And also, suppliers are also now going to be encouraged to be innovative and creative, because it means if you are not going green or if you are not practicing the aspects of green procurement, then most likely you could find yourself out of business. So it is also an opportunity for suppliers to be able to be creative and innovative. And that takes us to our next practice around sustainability, where we talk about working with suppliers to innovate and improve sustainability performance. So it is the issue of suppliers and sustainability procurement. It's an ongoing conversation. Things are changing every day. Tomorrow you've moved on. It is a continuous discussion and conversation. Business case for sustainability. Now, when we want to ensure sustainability is happening, we have conversation around looking at cost saving, where we want to efficiently utilize the resources that we have. And also that we can adopt the example of having energy efficient products that reduce energy bills over their life cycle. Yeah, that is a very important concept to be able to adopt. If you go to the big manufacturing companies, they pay monies and electricity bills in terms of billions of shillings, but they could be able to develop their own way of power supply, and that will very much reduce the cost of what you are calling energy bills. And we also move to clean energy. Countries are now moving into wind power energy. They are adopting solar energy and many other examples. Also, conversations around risk management, where we need to reduce reliance on renewable resources. And this is going to assist us to ensure that we are able to comply with various regulations and also be able to mitigate risks related to resource scarcity and legal issues. There are so many issues, legal issues, that could arise because of not respecting a country's laws in terms of sustainability. And therefore, it is something that we know it is a risk, or what we call a ticking time bomb. If we are not getting it right, we could find ourselves as a company, as a country, having so many legal issues around sustainability procurement. I don't know. We have the country we are in, which is Kenya, is continuing to do infrastructure development. And there is one road that has really brought a lot of issues because it is being proposed to pass through the forest where we have wildlife. And very many people have sued the government because of that particular issue. They are saying it is supposed to join point A to B, but the route that is supposed to go through, it is within the forest where we have wild animals. So the question is, in terms of environmental degradation, are we going to get it right or wrong? So those are legal issues that have arose, and they are going to arise for many other government projects. Yeah. Then we now have to first stop the project to deal with these particular legal issues, and many other examples that would have an adverse effects on the environment. The other one, and very important, is reputation and brand value. As organizations, we need to demonstrate commitment to sustainability. That means commitment means we need to show or lead by example that we can be able to do it, and this will definitely enhance our brand image. It will definitely attract customers who are going to prioritize ethical and environmental consideration. So when we lead from the front, it also becomes very easy to also have customers who understand on why we are taking various certain decisions around this particular issue about sustainable procurement. The other one is regulatory compliance. We also need to ensure as companies we are ahead in terms of regulatory requirements, and this is going to prevent penalties and take advantage of incentives for sustainable practices. Environmental considerations that we need to have in mind when we are talking about sustainable procurement, issues around the environment. Number one is the need for us to ensure that we have what we call resource efficiency. We have mentioned this point previously in our discussion, where we were emphasizing on the appropriate use of the available natural resources. Yeah, and this is going to help us reduce waste and environmental impact. So it means if we are undertaking our procurement activities, or we are dealing with goods and services that require the use of our natural resources, then we could get it right when we ensure we don't overuse our natural resources, or we could get it wrong in terms of environmental sustainability if we allow overusage of those natural resources. That's why in every country that you know that does mining and those issue of the sourcing of these natural resources, whoever that are doing that particular businesses need to have licenses to do that particular work. And I'm sure those licenses are not also very cheap, because if we make them very cheap, or we make them everybody is free to just popping in your land and begin to extract minerals, at the end of the day, we are going to find that we are losing it as a nation. Same case to the company level. The other one is energy use, prioritizing energy efficient products and ensuring suppliers who use renewable sources. So this is the conversations around energy and the importance of having to adopt renewable energy sources to ensure that we are getting it right in terms of environmental sustainability. Issues around pollution reduction, I also had, I think, mentioned that somewhere. So we adopt ways and means where we can minimize emissions, ways and means of also ensuring that we do not have pollution, and that can only be achieved if we adopt cleaner technologies and processes. You can imagine, for example, those guys that are using diesel-powered generators to run their affairs within a company. There could be issues around the pollution of the environment, and also able to inhabit. So when we are talking about environmental considerations to ensure sustainability, we need to ensure the conversation on pollution has really been discussed. And day in, day out, look for avenues on how we can reduce pollution. And then the other one is biodiversity, where we need to protect ecosystems by choosing products and suppliers that promote biodiversity. Social considerations. When we talk about social considerations, is conversation around affairs around sustainability procurement that involve people. That's why you are saying, number one, we are talking about labor practices. When we talk about labor, we simply mean employees. So we are looking at aspects around employees where we ensure, number one, that we fairly compensate them, also provide safe working conditions for them, and also we need to respect their rights. So these are conversations that we cannot ignore when we talk about sustainable procurement. They are also very, very important. So the social side is how we manage the people around us when we are having the conversation around sustainable procurement. The second one is what we call community impact. Second one is what we call community impact, where we need to support suppliers that positively impact their local communities, promoting social equity and development. So this is something that can be inculcated within communities. They need also to be educated, conversations around sustainable procurement, environmental sustainability. And once they understand that, then it is easier for us as people who are neighbors to this community or companies that are within this community to know that our community is enlightened. And therefore, you will find that they are not going to allow any form of poor waste disposal, any other forms of pollution, because they already know this particular conversation. And then also we have issues of diversity and inclusion, where we encourage diversity in the supply chain by engaging with minority-owned and women-owned businesses. So around procurement, diversity and inclusion is simply telling us that we need to broaden our gap in terms of our suppliers. We could be ignoring some suppliers from the minority groups. Yes, they could do better work in terms of sustainable procurement compared to other suppliers that we have been used. And also, we could also engage with women-owned businesses. We could also find those that are able to understand this conversation, and therefore it will be a plus for us as an institution. Another one is ethical standards. Avoid suppliers involved in unethical practices. Suppliers who are involved in corruption issues, human rights abuses, and also exploiting the labor practices or exploiting the labor issues around a particular country. So those are ethical standards. Ethics is about doing things right. So it is a key social consideration for us that for us to be able to get right or get it right, then we could get into an engagement with a corrupt supplier who would want to cut corners even when they are doing manufacturing of certain items that we expect to use as a company. We need to be very keen. And that's why in another discussion that we were having here, we emphasized on matters negotiations. These are conversations that we can have during the negotiation stage to ensure that we get it right. And we can be able to vet our suppliers. And we also mentioned about the issue of creating relationships with suppliers. So you cannot create a relationship with these suppliers and you do not know them in detail, how they have performed. You can also seek information from other people that these suppliers have worked with to try and understand them. Around the economic considerations, we consider the total cost of ownership. This is where we evaluate the cost associated with a product of its entire life cycle. We have mentioned this in another slide in terms of so it means now conversations nowadays, because of the issues of sustainability environment, have moved from the story of bring, I pay, and you go, or we part ways. Now we are introducing in our procurement conversations extra cost in terms of maintenance. Probably it's a machine, a printer, a vehicle, in terms of operational costs, in terms of disposal. Once maybe the machine is not able to continue serving the client. So costs involved here are wide. I'm sure you have had even conversations around contractors who do infrastructure like roads, rail. There is a cost of maintenance that has to be in the budget every year, because those roads, for them to be sustainable, because sustainability also means they need, for them to be able to last for long, then we need to have keep on maintaining them so that they continue to serve the citizens or the social environment or the people within a particular country, within a particular company. If there are machines that we are using within a company, we also need to do regular maintenance. I'm sure these are things those that are in organizations know they are happening. And then also the economic viability, ensuring that procurement decisions support long-term economic sustainability for both the purchasing organization and its suppliers. And also the need to have value creation, where we focus on products and services that provide the best value in terms of quality. So as we are going into the procurement space, we are also looking at what kind of good is this in terms of quality, in terms of performance, in terms of sustainability, or how long this particular item that I've procured is going to be serving me. Now we have what we call sustainable procurement strategies. Yeah. So that means it is important for every organization to develop a sustainable procurement strategy. When we are talking about a strategy, it simply means it is a high-level goal or plan that we need to develop as an organization or as a country in regards to procurement or in regards to sustainable procurement. And we also are able to note that once we develop these strategies, it is going to ensure that procurement decisions support sustainability goals and also reduce negative impacts on the environment and the society. So it is very, very important for organizations to come up with these sustainable procurement strategies. These high-level plans will be key in terms of ensuring that we get it right. And then also these strategies now, number A, would involve access to current practices. So we look at existing procurement policies and practices. It could be at an organizational level, or it could be at a country level. So we go ahead and conduct a sustainability audit. When you are carrying out an audit, we are carrying out an assessment to be able to understand the current environmental and social impact of procurement activities. And then number B we need to align with the organizational goals. We could develop these even at a departmental level, but as an organization, do we have the vision around sustainable procurement? Or it is things that we are just hearing or things that are being forced on us? Yeah, so once we develop these policies, remember policies could be done at the departmental level, the procurement department. Then we need to make sure that our overall organizational goals are able to match with, our policies that we have developed. Number C, and very, very important also, we need the commitment of the leaders or the leadership. Yeah. For even at a country level, for a country to begin conversations around climate change or matters sustainability, then it needs to begin from the president. Yeah. I remember very recently the Kenyan president held an Africa Climate Summit, and most African presidents are around. I believe even your president could also have attended that event that was in Nairobi. So if leaders don't show commitment at a country level, for example, or at a company level, we are most likely to get it wrong. So it is very important to bring them on board in this conversation, let them understand the importance of sustainable procurement, and see ways and avenues that they can support. We could, along the way, require some financing, and the leadership needs to be involved in terms of releasing of these finances. Yeah, so that's why we are emphasizing on the need to secure commitment of top management. And then also we are emphasizing on the need to establish a sustainability leadership team. So we can also have a steering team or a steering committee that is going to make sure that we are getting it right in terms of our sustainable practices and the development of the strategies that we have called them. And also very, very important, policy framework. We develop or revise our policies to incorporate sustainability principles. And also we also need to ensure these policies are aligned with international standards and frameworks, such as the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I would like you to read the discussion around Sustainable Development Goals. It's a long discussion because we have a number of other sustainable development goals, but our key focus here is what we are calling the ISO 20400. That is the conversation where we talk about sustainable procurement. But I want you to generally look at what we call sustainable development goals, where you are going to see we have many other conversations away from the conversation on procurement. And these are goals that are guiding many other countries, and everybody is seeking to achieve them. And then also very, very important to get it right in terms of procurement strategy, we need to allocate resources for that particular purpose. So we need a budget, we need personnel who are going to assist us to ensure that even as we develop these goals, we implement them, and technology that is meant to support sustainable procurement initiatives, and also invest in training and development programs. People need to continually be reminded about sustainable procurement or the conversations around sustainability, conversations around the environment. So even at an organizational level, we can continually have training programs to remind people to improve on what they know around sustainable environment and procurement. And that is going to make sure that our goal and target around sustainable procurement is achieved. Now, it is also important for us to understand also the need for us to develop a sustainable procurement policy, a policy statement. And the purpose of this policy statement is to articulate the organization's commitment to sustainable procurement. And this ensures that we have these policies in a very clear and a concise manner. So within the policies, we can have sustainability principles. Remember, for example, the principles that I was talking about when we were talking about green procurement. The principles of opting for products that use fewer natural resources, principles around adopting the use of reusable products, principles around pollution prevention, and so on and so forth. And others that are highlighted here, for example, how we can reduce environmental impact and also promoting social responsibility and also ensuring economic efficiency around conversations of sustainable procurement. The second one, and very, very important, is supplier requirements. So we need to have a clear structure that we know what kind of suppliers we will be looking at based on their sustainability performance. And then also we need to include specific requirements for suppliers that are related to environmental management, labor practices, and ethical conduct. We can also come up with what we call products and service standards. So we can set standards of the minimal issues around products and services. What is the list that we can take? And social attributes of procured products. And also as organizations, we also go ahead and prioritize products with eco labels. Eco labels means that these are products would support environmental sustainability conversations, certifications, like we have just seen the ISO certification around procurement. That will make sure that we align, because most of these certifications would be given by governments. It would make sure that we align to the conversation on sustainable procurement, or those made from recycled or renewable materials. We have talked about that when I just mentioned about reusable products. So these standards are important so that we know what is the reducible minimums as a company when we want to order product X. What is it that we can accept and what is it that we cannot accept? So we will be looking for what we have just listed here: eco labels, certified products, reusable products where possible. And also number 4, once we set these policies and guidelines, we need to implement them. So we need to look for ways and means on how we are going to go about it, practices across the organization, and also include procedures for monitoring and reporting on sustainability performance. We also need to be very keen in terms of ensuring continuous improvement. And this is also why I was saying that we need to continually continue to do training and retraining, where we regularly review and update the policies. And also, lastly, we need to incorporate feedback from stakeholders and also need to adapt emerging sustainability trends and regulations. We have the need for us to also bring on board the aspect of stakeholder engagement and communication. When we are talking about stakeholders, they are everybody who would be interested in our procurement conversations for our company. So they could be internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. When you talk about internal stakeholders, we are looking at the employee's perspective. And that's why we talked about training on the need for them, because they are internal stakeholders to understand what is their role in terms of sustainable procurement. Suppliers, we have said we need to have irreducible minimums for them, conversations in terms of having them understand the expectations of the organization in terms of procurement and in terms of supply and delivery of whatever goods and items that have been ordered, and also customers, and also regulatory bodies. And then also understand their interests, expectations, and influence on procurement activities. Finally, we need to, or last but not least, we need to come up with an engagement strategy. And this engagement strategy is for the stakeholders that we have just mentioned. How are we going to involve them in certain conversations? Because we want them to do what we are calling here. You can see we are saying develop a stakeholder engagement strategy to foster collaboration and buy-in. When we talk about buy-in, it means we want to have them accept and be in line with our conversation on sustainable procurement. So it means we have to continually look for avenues to communicate with the stakeholders. And then also we need to use various engagement methods. We can carry out surveys. What do they think about how we are doing our sustainable procurement activities? They can give their views. It should be an open discussion. What do they think? What else we can do? Workshops, meetings, and other different kinds of forums. And then we need to come up with a communication plan for these stakeholders, how we are going to be sharing our procurement strategies, goals, and progress with stakeholders. And there are a number of channels that we can adopt to be able to ensure whatever we are doing is getting to them, in terms of communication channels, in terms of channels like newsletters, channels like reports, channels like the use of social media. In short, stakeholders are very important personnel when it comes to conversations around sustainable procurement. They can make or break, or they can ensure the success or failure of our program around sustainable procurement. So if we can develop newsletters as organizations, highlighting what the organization is doing around sustainable procurement, we could be advised to do that. We could do reports. It could be quarterly, twice a year, depending on the one that we choose. And then finally, we also need to develop a feedback mechanism. And when we are developing a feedback mechanism, we want to establish ways and means where stakeholders can get back to us and give us feedback. And once we get this feedback, we use it to improve policies, we use it to improve processes, and we use it to improve our engagement efforts with the stakeholders. And finally, we need to ensure transparency and reporting. Any matters around sustainable procurement, they need to be reported openly. If we are getting it right, we need to know as an organization. If there are areas we are not getting right, we also need to know and understand what is it that we can do around those areas that we can improve. And that's what we are saying in the final statement of the day. It is important for us to publish sustainable reports and also have updates on that demonstrate accountability and build trust with stakeholders. So that is it on that particular discussion on sustainable procurement. Probably I would try see whether there are any questions as we